Welcome to Economics Trainer. This video was made to help you strengthen your skills in microeconomics. Here we have a sample question, care of brighttutoring.ca. It's the kind of question you'd expect to see on a test in a first-year microeconomics class. Let's work through it together. So here's the question. Consider a competitive market with a supply curve of P equals 40 plus 0.1 times quantity supplied, and a demand curve of market price P equals 140 minus 0.4 quantity demanded. Consider a price floor of $80. With that, what we have to figure out is how does the market equilibrium quantity, consumer and producer surplus, and deadweight loss change? So to start this off, let's find the competitive market equilibrium and then see how that compares to a price floor equilibrium. So here we have supply and demand. Let's graph it out here. So we look at the supply curve. We can see the supply curve that starts at 40 and then increases from there. So we have 40 down here. And then for the demand curve, we can see it starts at 140 and then decreases from there. So we have 140 up here. Now in terms of the price floor, we don't know where it is right now because 80 could be anywhere between 140 or 40. We don't know if it's up here or up down here. So let's figure out where the competitive equilibrium is to start here, and then we'll know where to put that point. So let's start off here and say, okay, supply equals demand, and let's find that equilibrium. So here we have 40 plus 0.1 Q equals 140 minus 0.4 Q. So let's solve for Q here. So if we move it over to the left, we get 0.5 Q. And on the right-hand side, let's see the 40, we'll subtract from that, we get 100. And then if we multiply both sides by 2, we'll get a market quantity Q star is equal to 200. So we know this point down here, that's going to be the competitive market equilibrium of 200. And then if we go up and plug it into either supply or demand, it doesn't matter at this point, we can find the market price. So let's take this and let's plug it into the supply curve here and say, okay, price is 40 plus 0.1 times 200. So what we have here is our market price. Let's see, we have 40 plus 10% of 200, which is 20. So the market equilibrium price is $60 to start. So here we have P star is 60. So now that we have the competitive equilibrium, we can figure out what's going on with the price floor here at $80. We know where it lies. It lies above 60, so it's going to be up here. So let's draw this in here, the price floor 80. And now at the higher price, the consumer doesn't like it, so their quantity demand is going to decrease. And the producer, they're going to say, oh, this is great, because they're going to want to produce more at a higher price. So they're going to put this much on the shelf over here. But this blue point here is how much is going to be bought, which is going to be the short side of the market. So that's going to be our new equilibrium, which is the short side or the left side of the market. And you can see here, this gap here, that's going to be the excess. So let's figure out this point here. We can see this is where we have a price of 80 hitting the demand curve. So if we say, okay, let's go to the demand curve here and we say, okay, a price of 80, we're going to have 80 equal 140 minus 0.4 quantity demanded. And let's solve for Q here. So if we move the 140 over, we get negative 60. That equals negative 0.4 Q. And then let's figure out here what's going to be 60 divided by 0.4. So here we get 150. So our Q hat at this policy is going to be 150. So that's going to be this point down here for the new market quantity. Now, in terms of finding the consumer and producer surplus, we always have the consumer is on the top up here above the market price. And then the producer, they're going to be down here with this part here. So the producer surplus is this big box here. And they also have this little triangle down here. And then in the middle here, this is going to be the deadweight loss because these sales aren't happening anymore. So here we have in the middle here, this is going to be the deadweight loss. So let's figure out consumer surplus because we have all the information for that triangle. We have all these 3 points here. So we can see the height of the triangle is going to be 140 to 80. So if we look at the consumer surplus, we say, okay, the height is 140 minus 80. And then for the base of the triangle, we can see it starts at 0 down here and it goes to 150. So that's just going to be 150. And then divide by 2 because we have a right angle triangle here. So let's see, what do we get? So we get 60 times 150 divided by 2. So let's see here, 60 times 150 divided by 2. So that's 4,500. So that's going to be that consumer surplus area there. Now, in terms of the producer surplus, that one's going to be a little trickier because we have to figure out the box and this triangle here. So you can see the height of the box goes from here to here. Same with the height of this triangle, it goes from here to here. So we're going to have to figure out this point here as the cutoff between the box and the triangle. So we say, okay, producer surplus is width times length for the box, and then we have base times height divided by 2 for the triangle. So we're going to need to figure out this point here. So we say, okay, with this point here, we have a quantity of 150. It's going to hit the supply curve here. So we say, okay, if we go to the supply curve and it's put in a quantity of 150, we should be able to figure this out over here. So we say, okay, P equals 40 plus 10% of 150. So here, this point here, let's see, 10% of 150 is 15, so that's going to be 55. So we know this point here is going to be right there, which makes sense, it's between 60 and 40. And now we can use that to figure out the height and width of the box and triangle. So if we look at the box here in the middle, we can see, okay, for the length here, we have 0 to 150, so that's going to be 150. And then for the height, that's going from 80 up here, and then we have to 55. So we do 80 minus 55. And then we do the similar thing for the triangle down here. We say, okay, the base is the same, it's 150. And then for the height, let's see, the height is going from 55 down to 40. So that's going to be 15. And then divide by 2. So let's see, what do we get here for the first part? So we have 80 minus 55, and then times 150. So it'll be 3750 for the first part. And then the next part, let's see, we're going to have 150 times 15 divided by 2 is 1125. So let's add those two up, and we get 4875. So that's going to be the new producer surplus. Now for the final part of the question, we have to figure out the deadweight loss, which is going to be this little triangle here. And then we have all the points now, which is nice. You can see the height of the triangle is going from 80 down to 55. And then the base is going from 150 to 200. So if we go over here and figure out the deadweight loss, say, okay, so the height is 80 to 55. So we're going to have 80 minus 55. And then for this gap here, let's see, that's going to be 200 to 150. Okay, so that's 50. And then divided by 2. So let's see, what do we have? So we have 80 minus 55 times 50, and then divided by 2. So 625. So that 625 used to be part of the market welfare because we used to capture those gains from trade. But now with this market policy coming into play, these units don't get sold. So we have 50 less units being sold, and we lost 625 units in terms of welfare. And that's how you do that question. This video is brought to you by people who like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You can also support my work by buying me a coffee.